Okay, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Cole Smith. Today we're going to go over, it's still part of our series on Tableau order of operations. And today we're going to go over, so last time we did context filters. Today we're going to go over sets and LODs. Those are in between context filters and dimension filters. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I'm gonna pull up the Tableau order of operations just so you can visually see kind of where we're at. And then I'm gonna go to Tableau and try to give you a practical example. And we're gonna go from there. So let me go ahead and present my screen. All right, cool. Okay, so as you can see, we have here, so last time we did context filters. So then right now we're gonna be doing sets and LOD. And next video, I'm gonna do conditional filters and top in. I'm just trying to break them up. I don't want the videos to be too long. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this, right? All right, so still working with the NFL data set. And for this example, my thought is, okay, let's say you work at ESPN, for example, and your manager says, hey, I want to see a dashboard that shows us just different statistics about like NFL quarterbacks, right? So my thought is, okay, I want to see who are the top end names, right? Top end names of quarterbacks based on touchdowns, right? Now, the way you can think about this is I'm going to use a set to be able to create this top end, which is also a top end, because top ends work between, you can create top ends in multiple different ways. One of the ways that you can do them is in a set, and you can also do it on a dimension filter, right? So I want to be able to see like the top 10 quarterbacks, but what I want to be able to do is, as a user of this dashboard, I want to be able to see if a quarterback is in that top end of all time. So let's say we're watching a game and we see said quarterback passes a 300 touchdown mark. Does that put him in the top 10 or not, right? Or is he still outside of that? Because years ago, 300 touchdowns used to put you in a top ranking, but now with the game being faster, people scoring more touchdowns, that's not as significant as a mark as it used to be. So let's just go into it, right? All right, so like I said, we're going to do sets and then we're going to do LODs. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in player. I'm going to add all members. And I'm going to go ahead and add college. And I'm going to add team. Actually, I want to see, I'll say it like that. Okay, and the reason I add player and college and team is because there's multiple, like a player could be on, could have played on multiple teams. A player could have had the same, two different people could have the same name. So I'm trying to get it at the lowest granularity that I can so the numbers are accurate. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to add fantasy position here. And I'm going to put this at the context level. And again, the reason I want to do it, like I said last time, is I want to be able to shrink as many records out as I can out of the data set. So when I do calculations like LODs LODs or top ends, I don't have to worry about there being about getting getting records getting records returned in that set or that LOD that shouldn't be there because they're going to be already gone. And they're at the context. So like the LOD won't be affected, but it won't be affected by it, right? So I'm gonna hit QB. So now when I do my top end, it's only gonna look at QBs. When I do my LOD, it's only gonna look at QBs because they're already gone. So sorry, I need to actually hit add to context right now to dimension filter. So now that's gonna be the case, right? All right, so let's go ahead and add team as a dimension filter, which keep in mind is show you guys here. Keep in mind that's below that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I don't want to see those. I only want to see actual teams. Okay, so I'm gonna hit apply. Sorry guys. Okay. And I like to do shell filter like this. It just to me makes it easier to when I'm trying to test stuff out. I'm gonna say only relevant values. And then I'm going to do multiple good and drop down. All right, cool. Bet. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to okay, so now we have this. Now we need to add our measure, right? So I'm going to add TD to text. Boom. Okay, so now we got a total, right? Okay, so now like I said earlier, right? We want to see is a player on a given team that we select here in the top 10 touchdowns of all time. Okay, so one way we can do that is that we can do a set. Now, I'm going to use player as the dimension, okay? And I'm going to say top in TDs of touchdowns, okay? By quarterback. Okay. Well, actually, no. Let's just say top N of TDs. We don't want to say about quarterback because, for example, if we use the same set on another sheet and didn't have this context filter, it would be working in whatever position or positions we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to say top, and I'm going to say player top 10 by TDs. Hit OK. All right, so now if I drag this over, right? Now, this is a good way to do this, right? Because now you can see this visually, who's in the top 10. You see Ben Roethlisberger to 19, Brett Favre, he played it for multiple teams. You would add these up, and that's how you get that to work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to control and shift this over. And I'm going to say I only want to see the players that are in. Hit apply, hit OK. Okay. So we have 10 players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. Okay. Obviously, as I'm breaking them down to multiple dimensional layers, we're getting what appears to be more records, but it's still 10 players. Okay, so just keep that in mind, right? Now on this team part, right? Okay, so I got the top 10 players. I want to see, okay, does the Carolina Panthers have a player that's top 10 all time in touchdowns? Let's just see. Oh, sorry. So I made a mistake there. I did this as all relevant values, and we don't want to do that. Let's just keep them all values in context because otherwise it would just always be what's left, and that's not what we want to do. So I hit Carolina. We don't get any back. In Chicago, we don't get any back. Hit Cincinnati, Cincinnati, we do get Carson Palmer. Now, what you will notice is, right, and this is key. This is how you know you're working at the top, at the set level and not at the dimension level. So when I hit Cincinnati, it's only going to return 154 touchdowns because I'm filtering at the dimension level. But his top end calculation is actually calculating above that. And what I mean above that, it's calculating above the level of any dimension filters that are being listed, which in this case is team. So if I hit all, you see how we get all of Carson Palmer's all of his teams that he played on. So effectively, if I hit Arizona, Cincinnati, and Oakland, I'm gonna get all his touchdowns back. So if he hit Arizona, Cincinnati, and Oakland, we're gonna get all his instances. Boom. So now again, we're showing all of his touchdowns, and we also happen to pick up Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's having the same situation as Carson Palmer had earlier. We only had clicked one team because he played on Arizona, and I believe he also played on the Giants. So let's just check that out. Boom, we pick up more touchdowns. And not to mention, I forgot this, his biggest team he played on was St. Louis. So boom, up. You see what I'm saying? So that's how that works, right? You have to make sure that you're following the pipeline correctly to be able to identify how this is going to work. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this set is being calculated at the level of based on team. It's not looking at, so like let's say if I added it's being calculated at the level of the player. It's not including team. It's only looking at player. So you have to make sure that when you're using these different sets and LODs, that you're being very cognizant about what dimensions you're including. That's why I like sets and things like that. But keeping it simple when you're creating them like I did earlier, it's only at one dimension. And a lot of times I'll use them with LODs so I can include more than one dimension, right? Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? So let's go ahead and add this all back. And actually, I don't want to see that. Okay. Well, we're not going to see anything anyways because it's probably not there. But so that takes care of that. So now the next thing is, okay, let's do an LOD, right? So I want to see what is the max touchdowns this player's ever had, right? Okay. So let's say player max touchdowns. Now, if you come over here and you type in like fix, it gives you like how it's written, right? So you got the curly braces out on each ends, fix, then your dimensions, colon, and then what your aggregate expression is, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it like this, and I'm going to say, okay, fix. And what fix means is it's going to calculate the calculation based on whatever dimensions you place in the calculation. So in this instance, I want to follow this pattern here because I want to calculate it literally at the level of the view. But generally speaking, when you're using these things, that's not going to be the case. So I'm going to say player, college, team. I'm going to do colon, and I'm going to want to sum up TDs. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag. Actually, let's just do measure names. I'm going to kill that and go get the other one. Okay, and I only want to see. So we're going to do TD. And we're going to go ahead and grab. What are we going to grab, guys? Player touchdowns? Yeah. Okay, so now what you see here is, right, which I just realized that I made a mistake, which is good because I'm going to show you how this works. So because I have it at the granularity here, it's showing you the max touchdowns at the layer at the level of player, college, and team, which is exactly what I specified, which is not really what I wanted to do. What I actually want to do is show it to you at the level of the player. And I'm going to do player in college because, again, player, they could be the same player name. It's less likely at the college level. I don't think it's really going to matter for this instance, but it's just things to think about when you're doing this, when you don't have like unique keys. So let's kill out team. Hit OK. All right, boom. So now you see this right here, right? So now we have like the 295 for Brett Favre. And we do this, you see we got his 295. We got 465 for Peyton, Indy, and that, boom, right? So that's how you do a fixed LOD. And again, we were able to specify that level at the level of player in college, while our set is at the level of just the player, okay? And then our TDs, for example, which is a measure, is at the level of the entire sheet. So you see how we have all these different things working together. That's why it's very important to understand this pipeline, because you're going to have things working at different levels, and it's really important to understand how they work. All right, so that's for that video. One thing I do want to say is I'm going to do a part 2 to this video because I gave you a very simple example. Some things I want you to think about before this next video comes out is, you notice I gave you a top end of a touchdown. Realistically, you're going to want to know, you're going to want to be able to add time dimensions in there, right? So you may want to say, okay, show me the top 50 after said date. So like 2010. You're not going to always want to sum up things at the total. Like I know in my personal work experience, I'm always having to use time dimensions. Like it's just, you're never not using them. And a lot of times like LODs and like sets and like filters, you'll see these examples online where people don't use like time. And it may be confusing to you because you just like, now you're like, oh, how do I deal with the time, right? Because that's what you're going to get at work. So I'm going to show you a little bit more complicated example that's going to be a more realistic use case of how this was used, right? So I'll do that in the next video. But yeah, I appreciate all the support. If you like me to do a certain video, let me know. Please don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, and share this content. And I'll check you out next time. Peace.